Who's on the wish list? Who do you want to see if who could take on one of your tracks?
Well, the way to answer that is to look at that BPI site and see who is currently the most successful artist in the entire world with the biggest audience.
Let's have "Growing on Me" by The Weeknd. Here we go.
Yeah, perfect.
Like that.
Yeah,
that'll work perfectly well. Hey guys, James Wilson Taylor here for Rock Sound. It's the latest of our video calls. We've been chatting to everybody from the comfort of home right now, and I'm delighted to say from the darkness, Mr. Justin Hawkins is on the line. Justin, how are you, sir?
that was me. Sorry.
That's a solid entrance. There you go.
Look. I'll be using that later. And
okay, good.
This one. So
that's the one we want the most of, I think. That's how we know we've done a good job here, if we get a few of those in there. Nice to see you, man. I mean, I'll start this off. We've kind of started them off in a similar way each time, which say, you know, obviously, I hope you, your bandmates, your loved ones all been kind of keeping as safe and as well as you can over this rather mad 18 months we've all been having. And I guess before we get into the music aspects and everything, how has this kind of last year or so been for you, man? I mean, it's again, you're another one of these bands I talked to where you guys tour so hard and so frequently. It's got to be kind of strange, but maybe in a nice way to have this much downtime again.
Yeah, I don't think we realized how much of a touring band we were, really, because I think we lost 6 weeks in America. We lost the last part of our Australian tour, and all the stuff that was supposed to happen after that went away as well. And then you suddenly realize that we do probably spend half of our time on the road, so it's been a big change. Also, when we're not on the road, we're normally writing songs or making an album, and we had to find a way of doing that remotely this time, you know, because when it all stopped, I was like, oh, let's make an album. Yeah, let's do it. Let's go, you know, and everybody was kind of, hey, let's just chill for a minute. and they were right. They were totally right.
Yeah.
But I think it's because I'm on my own here, you know,
right,
in a foreign country. And the rest of those guys have got families and friends and so on, or they live in the country where they speak the language. So I think it was especially profound from my end because I sort of just felt like I needed to do something.
Yeah,
otherwise I would have gone mad. So in the end, I went for the going mad option.
Didn't we all a little bit? Didn't we all? It's absolutely fine. One thing I did notice before we kind of get onto the music aspect of it is, you know, like everyone else, they've been finding ways to kind of keep that fan community going and find new ways to communicate if you can't get out there in front of the crowds in the way you normally would. And I like that you guys, you know, case in point, you're doing a lot of Patreon stuff, a lot of kind of more online content, kind of explaining the songs and everything. I take it that must have just been another, like we say, staving off the madness and all that. But I mean, it's got to be quite nice to be able to have a new way to communicate directly with the fans in that.
It's funny. I feel like when we go on tour, like a huge part of it's become the VIP experience. You know, when you're super connected with the hardcore, it takes up a bit more of your day, and it's kind of a bit. You get to know your audience, and that is the advantage of it. But now I feel like I know them intimately because I've been doing this Patreon thing since the beginning of COVID, and it's been a godsend in two respects, really. I have more than one household that I need to provide food and lodging for on account of a separation. And so not being able to work or earn money is a total disaster. It's not like we're Coldplay. I mean, I love Coldplay, obviously, as you know, but we're not one of those bands that can say, oh, hang on a minute, we'll stop doing the stadiums for a minute. It's COVID, guys, right? We don't get to pick and choose. So, you know, just having that opportunity has been brilliant, and I think there's a new love for it. I think the Patreon stuff is a great companion piece for when the touring starts again. Just got to find time to provide the content.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's nice to have these new avenues to play with for sure. Absolutely. I mean, let's get into what you guys have been kind of cooking up. The album is kind of imminent at the time of recording. It's called Motorheart. So how much of this really was a kind of lockdown project in a way? Did you have any new ideas and new songs already kind of raring to go before all this kicked in? Or has this been literally written while you've had this extended downtime?
No, it's all downtime.
Wow.
Downtime, lockdown writing. This is the first album that I can remember when we haven't sort of looked to the past, sort of earlier writing stuff. Well, there's always a song or two where you've kind of gone, we never quite got that one right. Let's take it back to the studio and try again. We never did that on this one. So everything is completely new. Um, it wasn't the same as usual in the sense that the stuff that the stuff that I was working on was being sent to me from the guys. Like, so they would send me demos of backing tracks. I would top line them, and then if things were worth developing, they would sort of modify the backing tracks to my vocal in places, and sometimes I would just top line what's there and nothing needed to change. Which I actually think. I actually think that meant that everybody really loves their parts. You know, you're not sort of saying, "Oh, all right, I'll do this." And there's no. I think when you have four people in a room, what happens is there's a natural tendency to sort of compromise on certain things, especially in arrangement. And things get a bit sort of homogenized, so that you might go, okay, that's the chorus. Okay, so next we do another verse. That those sort of standardized formulaic approaches to songs tend to happen when you're all in the room, because you kind of know what makes each other tick and you know how to please one another. So everything ends up sounding a bit samey, but that wasn't the case on this one. I was getting some stuff and I was sort of listening to it going, what even is that? I couldn't figure out which bits were supposed to be which, and they didn't know either. So it really was quite freeing and exciting to work like that. And the last thing I wanted to say about remote recording, when you're a singer and you're in a vocal booth, all you have is like the producer's voice in your cans. It's quite a lonely experience anyway. Like sometimes I'd be in the vocal booth and if there's a glass door, I'd look through it and I'd just see Frankie asleep on the settee or something like that. And you don't need that, So the only thing that was actually different was the fact that I was in another country. But if you can get that out of your head, the reality of my recording process was exactly the same, because we had this on I've forgotten what it's called now, but it's a thing over the web where I had my brother who was producing the record in my ears, and he was listening to what I was doing, and we were doing it, using the technology. So it was the same experience. I was just in my vocal booth instead of his.
Amazing. No, amazing to be able to have that tech to actually be able to keep it going in as normal a way as possible.
If this was like 19, whenever it was, when the Spanish thing flew, that would have been a totally different story. Oh, God. We're quite lucky to have computers and stuff, aren't we?
Oh, very, very true. Kept things ticking along very, very nicely. Well, I want to mention with the record, a question that it may be generic and it may be cliched, but I genuinely like to ask everyone this, which is about the album title, because I genuinely am fascinated as to why people actually pick these phrases to sum up a record. I know obviously there is the title track Motorheart on there, but what was it about that phrase, or maybe that song even, that you just thought, yeah, actually this is going to sum up this record as a whole as well?
Okay, so I think the way we do album titles is we tend to leave it to the last minute. Sometimes it's the title track isn't the title track per se, because it's not supposed to be the figurehead for a collection of songs, but there's something about the vibe of Motorheart that ticks that box. I think it's because when I got the backing track for that song, Frankie described it as a cross between Motorhead and Heart. So it made sense to me that Motorheart should be the title. And then I worked back from there. So I was thinking, all right, Motorheart, that means an artificial love of some sort, man-made love. And then I ended up landing on the sex robot concept. So I thought, let's have a bit of fun with that. And, like the whole album is kind of about different kinds of relationships that the protagonist has had over the years that have kind of led to exactly the same type of disappointment. And so in desperation, the sex robot is purchased and assembled, but then the same problems occur in that relationship. And at no point does the main character turn the spotlight on himself, because that would be too difficult. So I think that the Motorheart thing is the reason why that song works as a title track conceptually is because it is the culmination of all those disappointments. Right. You can't even make it work with something that's specifically designed to work in that way. then you really are fucked.
Yeah, it's pretty damning at that point.
Yeah.
That's when it's pretty damning right there. No, it's interesting to talk about kind of themes over the record. So, one track I really want to pick your brain about. I'm a Scottish boy. I'm calling you from Edinburgh right now. So welcome to Glasgow, of course. Just really beautiful piece of music. I love the shout out to all the venues as well. That was very, very nice touch in that particular track. But tell me a little bit about this, because I know growing up here, and I know on all the occasions I've gone to Glasgow or interview bands in Glasgow or anything like that, it's always number one on people's list. Like, this is one of our favorite places to play. Why is that? What is it about those crowds and those venues that's always spoken to you guys as well?
Well, there are a few places in the UK that are like that. I mean, I include Nottingham Rock City. I think even though it's in London, the Brixton Academy has that effect too. But there's something in the I think it's probably in the, what would you reckon it would be? Like, it's the altitude or something. There's something about that region that makes the audience just way more, I don't know, they've got their own sort of traditions. Like when they hear the song that they really want to hear, they throw the beer in the air, for example. That's one of the only places where you see that in the UK, because beer's expensive. You know, it's a precious commodity. For a lot of people, it's the currency of a night out, and they just throw it in the air. And places like Barrowlands, they just go mental, and the floor is sprung like a ballroom. And we've had some truly memorable experiences in Glasgow. And every time we drive to Glasgow, we look out the tour bus window and somebody says "Welcome to Glasgow," and it always happens. So and that's been since the beginning of the Darkness. It's always been the same. I think we had that track, and it was kind of, we were looking for what's it going to be, and somebody said, well, it should be like "Welcome to the Jungle," and I said, well, "Welcome to Glasgow," and that's how it came about. And then we thought, well, let's make it a tribute to what is probably our favourite city to play in the UK. You know, we have a really special relationship with Glasgow. I mean, there was one year when just before I had to go and have like some surgical procedure on my voice, which was very frightening. Probably the worst gig I had in terms of my performance was at Glasgow. It was at the Academy in 2000, probably, I think it was 2017, and I was really having a hard time. I couldn't sing, but I got through the show, and it was the crowd that got me through the show. Then on the last tour, we played that venue again, the Academy, and I would say it's probably the best I've ever sung out of any show. And it's because I've been sort of training, having had the procedure. Now I really look after my voice in a different way, and it's got more powerful in certain areas and certain ways. And playing to that audience just brought out the best in it. So that's an audience that always lifts me, and I wanted to give something back.
Yeah, no, it's good. I mean, you guys are playing Barrowlands later this year as well, so that's going to be a very, very special
super
moment.
Exciting.
Oh man, that's going to be absolute chaos. Can't wait for that one. Here's something else I wanted to mention. You know, just a little nod to the past there, because I'm sure you must be aware of this, but it was only a couple of months back. I believe, a thing called Love Now Gone Platinum over here in the UK, which just kind of got announced there. And I just wanted to touch briefly on that kind of.
What happened?
It went platinum over here in the UK, the single.
Well, how many is that?
I don't know. You tell me. You're the rock star.
First of all, how many is that? Second, where are my fucking royalties now? But, I don't know what that means, though. How does a single go platinum? I never.
Well, these days
something.
Well, this is the wonderful thing. I'm gonna make sure I find out the exact stat on the website here. But basically, the BPI updates every week, and it's because of the old streaming effect in it that all these songs that have come out a fair few years back suddenly get a little extra certification. Yep. So on the 9th of July, I believe in a thing called Love, as a single, went platinum over here in the UK.
Superb.
I will tell you exactly what that means if I can find it now. Whatever
it means that it's number one on the Isle of Wight.
What does that mean? Equivalent of 600,000 sales as a single.
Pretty good.
Take that, right?
Well, I'm happy with that. Yeah.
I mean, I think these days that's not bad, right? But I guess that's what I wanted to ask a little bit, because I've seen with your Patreon talking about writing some of these older songs and everything. It must be quite nice to see, particularly, I guess, from the first album and actually the second album as well, but seeing those songs that have those enduring successes here and finding, weirdly, through streaming and all these kind of things, clearly newer audiences as well who maybe didn't even experience it the first time around.
I'm just waiting for somebody big and successful to cover one of our songs. And then, like what happened to Journey when
right, of course,
Glee reinvigorated it, and then they released it, and it was just number one for for another 100 years, like much, decades after it was first released. That's what I need to happen. Then we can all go home happy.
Who's on the wish list? Who do you want to see? Who could take on one of your tracks?
Well, the way to answer that is to look at that BPI site and see who is currently the most successful artist in the entire world with the biggest audience.
Let's have Growing on Me by The Weeknd. Here we go.
Yeah,
like that. Yeah, that'll work perfectly well. I did want to, if you'll indulge me, ask you a little bit about writing of one particular song of yours that has just been a personal favorite of mine for years, and that's Friday Night, which I just think is the best track on the album. I absolutely love it. Seeing you play it live, it's absolutely brilliant. Tell me a little bit, if you will, about the writing behind that particular track.
Okay. Wow, that's it's really difficult to remember how that one came about. But normally I rack my brains for a week before I try and dissect it. But it was I can remember recording it. We recorded that one at the chapel in Lincolnshire. It was one of the main sort of body of songs that we did in 2 weeks for Permission to Land. But lyrically, I wanted it to be like a list song, because I had a theory that list songs are good. People like them, like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, love, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, love. That's in theory, anything with a list where it's numbers or whatever. And then I thought, well, let's make a list of all the stuff that I used to do at school. And then I wanted to make it just a love song about somebody else sitting next to it. But the most important thing was that I had to keep it gender neutral, because I just didn't want to give any games away.
And it makes it that everyone can relate to it directly as well.
That's the cynical side of it, but also a bit private about that sort of thing. I think when you're young, it's kind of, there's no reason to identify as one thing or another, really. It's just, that's the moment to figure it out, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose. No, very true. Very, very true. And it works well on the track. It really, really does. Hey, we've already mentioned it a little bit with the Barrowlands chat there, but yeah, heading out on the UK tour again, which is going to be very, very exciting later in the year. Have you guys, I guess you're obviously abroad. Has there been much of a chance yet to get back in rehearsals or anything, or is that still to come?
Well, we have done a few shows. We did 2 festivals in Wales and Finland. We did a bit of rehearsing for those too. And that was the first time that we'd actually stood in a room and played the songs from Motorheart together. And it sounded weirdly okay, it needs tidying up, but it wasn't as bad as we thought it was going to be. Not usually the first day of rehearsal is calamitous, and almost not really worth playing your instruments, because it's more just about saying hi to everyone and getting used to being in a room with people. And it's probably be worse this time, but we've got so we've just booked some stuff, the rehearsal time, and I'm really looking forward to it. I think the first day will be shit, but we already know there's at least 5 songs from the new album that we need to work up and try and see what sits in the set, really. The other thing to remember is we haven't done proper touring since we did the Easter is Cancelled tour, when we were playing the whole album and then going off and coming back to do the old favorites. So this will be the first time doing a normal Darkness set, in inverted commas, with the songs from Easter is Cancelled and the songs from, so basically it's a whole new set that we have to figure out, and it'll take a little while to get it right. It might even change over the first few shows, I reckon.
Yeah, sure. So
things do, sometimes, but it'll just be a laugh to be in the same room, and if we're laughing, we're in a good place,
Absolutely. No, so got to be so exciting for every band out there at the minute to finally be able to actually get back out there in front of some crowds and all that stuff. And then beyond the headline tour, one other thing I did want to quickly mention, back at Download next summer, which is always been so good to you guys. I remember, wasn't that one of the first, after you'd had those few years away, I think that was like the first show back, or at least one of the first shows back. That's amazing. Yeah, what are the kind of memories of that particular festival for you guys?
Well, we've had a few brilliant days and nights there. I think we played it in 2003 when we were coming up. I think we played it, the one that you said was probably the really memorable one. It's when Def Leppard were like, "Gotta get the Darkness back together." And then they basically invited us to be their kind of main support when they were headlining it in 2011, which was a little bit earlier than we were sort of planning to come back, but it was basically Joe Elliott forced us to come and do it, and I love him for it because it was the right thing. I love him for lots of reasons actually, but that was really cool of him, I thought. And so we did that one, and that was kind of, oh, what's it going to be like, guys? What's it going to be like? And it was just really well received. So and then more recently we played in the tent there, and I think I was wearing like a blue business suit. I came in, I surfed in from the back of the tent over the audience on a Viking shield, and then we had some actual Vikings, confirmed Vikings, which had been frozen in formaldehyde for the last 1,000 years, and then we thawed them out just for that show, and then we froze them again just for safety reasons. It's a brilliant festival, obviously, and it's probably the most focused in terms of genre that you're going to see, and it's huge, and it's all rock, and it's it's always a fun time to be there, and you know everybody there because it's the rock festival. It's the one.
Yeah. It is the one. It is the one. No, it's going to be exciting to see you guys back there next summer. In the meantime, man, congratulations on the record. Best of luck with everything. And yeah, like I say, really looking forward to seeing you guys out on the road. Particularly, I've got to head to that Glasgow show now. I know you've got that song in, but I mean, it's got to happen. It's going to be a big one. But that's it. And in the meantime, man, yeah, just take care of yourself, and we'll catch you on the road very soon. All right.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Thanks, James.
Good to see you, man. Justin, everybody.